Salut tout le monde! Alors, petit épisode bien matinal. Alors, vous allez m'excuser, je vous mets la vidéo brute de décoffrage direct de la chaîne de Candace Owens avec les sous-titres générés directement par YouTube. Je vous explique pourquoi. Parce que là, il est 6 heures du mat, d'accord? Je me suis levé à 5 heures. Je vole pour Dubaï aujourd'hui. C'était absolument pas prévu que je vous fasse un débrief aujourd'hui parce que Candace Owens n'avait pas prévu de nous faire un épisode hier soir, elle a prévenu au dernier moment. Et donc, naturellement, je ne peux pas me barrer à Dubaï sans vous avoir fait justement ce débrief de l'épisode 3. Enfin, du coup, ils appellent ça épisode 2 parce qu'ils comptent l'introduction, mais c'est le troisième épisode. Ce qu'on va faire, c'est qu'on va prendre la vidéo. Moi, je vous avoue, je l'ai pas, mais j'ai rien re-regardé depuis l'épisode d'hier soir parce que j'ai pas le temps. Franchement, là, j'ai pas le temps. Là, je suis dans le rush total aujourd'hui. Là, je vais vous faire la vidéo. Après, il faut que j'aille préparer tout mon bordel et tout. Il faut que je décolle. Donc du coup, ce qu'on va faire, c'est qu'on va prendre la vidéo, elle dure quand même 50 minutes, on va faire comme d'habitude, je vais la commenter, etc. Et puis voilà, donc vous m'excuserez de ne pas vous avoir trouvé des sous-titres un peu mieux générés, mais là j'ai vraiment pas le temps. Allez, let's go!
Well, we are trending in France, I can tell you that. Remarkably, we are not getting any fair coverage from their mainstream media apparatus. Check out all these headlines, man. They are rolling in. They do seem to be a bit panicked. You can also cut over here for the English speakers so you can see these headlines in English. I personally like the one from Nice Matin the best. It reads, "What does conspiracy theorist Candace Owens' absurd and transphobic investigation on Brigitte Macron, which is a hit on YouTube, contain?" I like that they admit that it's a hit on YouTube. And also, just a question back to them, how can I be transphobic if Brigitte Macron is not trans? Weird. Also, this other publication that's mentioned here, Marianne, right at the bottom, they may have jumped the gun a bit because it says there at the bottom, quote, "All the contemporary theories are covered: pedophilia, satanic delusions, or even false identity." I haven't yet made any claims about a false identity. Weird. What do they know that we don't know? I mean, it just seems like the press might know something that the public doesn't know, so we should probably find out what that might be. Welcome back to our series, Becoming Brigitte.
Ok, alors elle rentre direct dans le vif du sujet avec les premières interventions médiatiques. On n'avait pas vu trop les médias, même des médias internet, prendre l'affaire au sérieux. Donc là, on voit quand même qu'il y a Nice Matin, il y a LCI. Vous allez aller voir la couverture qui a été faite, hein. Il y a eu que des articles qui sont venus expliquer que Candace Owens était une conspirationniste, une complotiste, qu'elle ment, qu'elle est transphobe, etc. Donc elle explique comment elle peut être transphobe si Brigitte Macron n'est pas transsexuelle, ce qui est quand même plutôt une bonne réflexion. Ce qui va se passer, moi je vous le dis, c'est que plus les médias vont se mettre contre elle, en prenant clairement parti, et plus la population va se rapprocher d'elle. Et c'est là où en fait les médias ils font des erreurs en permanence, et moi je le vois sur les réseaux, parce qu'à chaque fois que les médias s'en prennent à moi, mon audience est encore plus impliquée dans mon contenu, donc ça va être encore pire avec quelqu'un de la portée de Candace Owens, surtout quand on voit ce qui s'est passé pendant le Covid, où on est venu traiter tout le monde de conspirationniste, de complotiste, et qu'au final aujourd'hui ils sont tous en train de s'excuser pour dire que ces gens-là avaient raison. Donc il faut quand même que les médias réfléchissent un petit peu. Je les trouve pas super intelligents, mais ce bashing en fait qui a été fait ce matin, il est un peu coordonné, je trouve, c'est-à-dire que c'est un petit peu les mêmes articles, donc ça m'étonnerait pas que c'est l'Élysée qui ait payé justement des sites internet de relais d'infos justement pour discréditer Candace Owens, mais le problème c'est qu'à faire ça, ils ne vont pas la discréditer, ils vont motiver encore plus les gens à aller l'écouter. Donc let's go. Bon, je bois mon café en même temps.
All right, guys, I have a fun one for you today. We're taking a break from the very dark world of Brigitte. We did not even cover all of the pedophile stories, but we're just going to take a brief break from that. One of the biggest mainstream media lies, okay, is that the rumors surrounding Brigitte were developed by far-right conspiracy theorists. They keep throwing that word out. It's a conspiracy, as though somebody put together a thread on Reddit or on the dark web, and that's the reason why people just started believing everything. That is not true. It could not be further from the truth. So I'm going to recap for you what actually went down in France. It's important to know this. The press, as we mentioned yesterday, intentionally spun a tale of an irresistibly hot and bold Brigitte Macron, who was constantly pushing back against the conformity of her stale Catholic upbringing all throughout her life, okay? I'm actually going to read you verbatim some of the published lines from that time because it is funny. It's actually funny to read how much the mainstream media just lies to us all the time, okay? Quote, around the age of 14 or 15, Brigitte gets bolder. She swaps her navy blue uniform from the austere Sacred Heart School in Amiens. Pleated skirt.
Ok, là je peux voir, je vais vous expliquer ce qui se passe parce qu'on peut voir que les sous-titres déconnent un brin parce qu'elle est en train de prendre des citations justement de la presse qui parlait à l'époque de la magnifique romance de Brigitte et Manu. En fait, c'est juste pour vous expliquer que la presse manipule l'intégralité de l'opinion. Qu'ils sont prêts à vous raconter une histoire en boucle et en boucle et en boucle et en boucle pour que vous soyez convaincus que cette histoire réelle existe et qu'elle est magnifique. C'est ce qu'elle expliquait, c'est ce qu'elle expliquait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, c'est ce qu'elle expliquait dans l'épisode précédent avec Mimi Marchand, vous savez, leur attaché de presse qui était justement en charge de quasiment l'intégralité de la presse People. Donc en gros, c'est vrai qu'il y a une version absolument bidon qui a été écrite sur leur couple en disant que Brigitte Macron était une femme irrésistible, une pin-up de 40 ans absolument magnifique à la Claudia Schiffer, etc. Donc là, Candace Owens est en train de reprendre des citations. Je pense que les sous-titres reprendront une fois qu'elle aura fini, mais bon, rien de très intéressant de toute façon là.
Sweater and tights, or small shorts and a miniskirt. For a while, she could forget about her schooling, constrained by Catholic discipline. Here's another one. She loves to dance at the surprise parties of the time. She wears tight miniskirts. And between 2 glasses of whiskey and Coke and wild rock and roll songs, she dares to flirt behind the curtains. Just imagine what is coming into your mind as I read these publications about her growing up, okay? Here's another one describing Brigitte as a, quote, inveterate party girl in an ultra small kilt who was into rock dancing to the music of John Lee Hooker until dawn, a rather hectic adolescence, the opposite of the quiet Emmanuel. Another writer wrote, quote, the youngest of the Trogneau family has always struck a chord with the public with her contagious good humor, her taste for partying, and her often funny, down-to-earth way of speaking. Again, of course, the goal of all of that was to soften her for having seduced a 14-year-old Emmanuel Macron, right? Rather, we're supposed to imagine in our minds that Macron had simply hit the jackpot, right? He fulfilled the fantasy of every boy his age because he got to sleep with that hot teacher, okay? And they reinforce this narrative by inserting sometimes anonymous quotes from former colleagues of Brigitte and alleged classmates of Emmanuel. Again, what I'm about to read to you are real quotes that were published in the mainstream press about Brigitte's teaching days, okay? Quote, Brigitte's class can't believe that the French teacher is celebrating her 40th birthday today. She looks so young in her short skirts and casual manner. To capture the attention of the most dissipated, the teacher has another less academic asset, her legs showcased in tiny skirts. Brigitte didn't wait to become the first lady to take great care of her appearance. Quote, she was a pleasure to look at, not just listen to, always with proof.
Bon, je vous présente mon chien. Je suis obligé de le prendre parce qu'il fait que de ronfler, vous allez entendre que lui. Et le problème, c'est que j'ai quelqu'un d'autre qui dort à la maison. Et si je le laisse dans le couloir, bah il va ronfler et il va réveiller tout le monde. Donc je vais essayer de le garder éveillé. Parce que sinon vous allez l'entendre ronfler sur toute la vidéo. Bon, on continue, c'est un petit aparté.
Hairdressing with makeup and perfumed, one student recalls. The boys are seduced. The girls take her as a role model. All the high school students were in love with her, says Frederique from Emmanuel's class. And from her very vocal daughter, Tifon, the only child that seems to really defend Brigitte Macron, she included this, quote, when I was a child, I was even jealous of all the students who wrote to her or called her at home. Then there is another teacher who spoke and went a little bit further. They said, quote, Brigitte arrived at La Providence wearing mini tailleuse. That's like a mini skirt and with a jacket, right? A sports coat. Beautiful, a pinup. One student stresses, We were all in love with her. Well, you guys, if the mainstream media says it's true, I guess it's case closed. We might as well stop this investigation. What do you want? Hottie with a body. Man, I sure hope I look like whatever that was at the age of 40, when people drooling over themselves. But it didn't stop there. The case wasn't really closed because in 2018, okay, what happens next is a woman named Mayelle Brune, she was then the head of the celebrities department at the magazine Closer, published the quote-unquote official biography of Brigitte Macron, which was entitled Brigitte Macron La Franchie, okay? Which means in English, the freed woman. Look at that cover. Wow, she's free, amazing. Look at that face, she's happy, she's glowing. And it was essentially really a book that was just a regurgitation, or rather a compilation of everything that I just said to you, everything that had already been published. And I'll tell you why this was immediately considered a departure from previous authorized biographies of a first lady or a president. And that's because there was absolutely no pictures provided of Brigitte Macron as a child, and there were no pictures provided of her as a young mother. In fact,
Ouais, ça c'est un truc que je vous expliquais dans les épisodes précédents, c'est quelque chose que je n'explique pas. C'est comment aujourd'hui il n'y a absolument aucune photo de Brigitte Macron quand elle était jeune, et même quand elle était enceinte en fait. Parce que moi, je discutais avec ma mère, là on en parlait un petit peu. Parce que ma mère, bon, elle est loin de tout ça, les gars, elle a 67 ans, voilà, s'en fout un peu. Mais elle me disait, oui, mais elle a 3 enfants. Je dis, oui, elle a 3 enfants, mais le problème, c'est qu'elle est même pas capable de diffuser une photo d'elle enceinte. Excusez-moi, et je sais pas s'il y a des femmes qui regardent cette vidéo, je présume que oui, même des mamans. Vous n'allez pas me faire croire que vous n'avez aucune photo de vous quand vous étiez enceinte, au moins un de vos enfants. Ou alors vous avez tout perdu par accident, etc. Ça peut arriver. Mais quand tu as 3 enfants, normalement, il te reste quelques photos de toi enceinte. Expliquez-moi pourquoi Brigitte Macron n'a pas une photo d'elle enceinte dans les biographies qui sont faites sur elle, pourquoi elle n'est pas capable aujourd'hui de présenter une photo d'elle quand elle était enceinte, si ce n'est également les photos d'elle quand elle était jeune. Il n'y a rien, il n'y a rien, c'est le néant. Et vous allez apprendre plus loin dans la vidéo que je crois qu'il n'y a même pas de photo d'Emmanuel Macron avant 12 ans également. Et ça peut quand même poser on peut quand même se poser des questions parce que vous allez voir là, à la fin de l'épisode, c'est absolument lunaire les ressemblances entre certains membres de la famille Trogneux et Emmanuel Macron. Mais on commence à se poser sacrément la question de savoir mais pourquoi ces gens-là n'ont aucune photo d'eux quand ils étaient gosses. Moi je veux bien qu'ils aient tout perdu, j'ai un peu du mal à y croire quand même.
This picture, okay, in this authorized biography was from 1993, when Brigitte was already teaching by that time at the Providence School. So here it is. This is the earliest photo that they included. Wait a second. Okay. So the caption beneath that photo read, Brigitte Ozier is 40. She's married. She's the mother of 3. She's quite appreciated at the high school where she teaches. She's about to make the encounter that will cause an upheaval.
On va peut-être poser une question à Fidji. Fidji, qu'est-ce que tu penses de Brigitte Macron un peu plus jeune? T'excite pas? Non, apparemment ça excite pas mon chien. Du coup, il peut retourner. Vas-y, retourne dormir, ça va. Si elle t'excite pas, tu peux retourner dormir. Ça m'arrange. Oui, alors ça, c'est les fameuses photos de Brigitte Macron quand elle était jeune, qui étaient censées troubler psychologiquement nos chers adolescents bambins qui apparemment fantasmaient devant des photos d'elle. Hein. Ouais, parce qu'apparemment toute la classe était amoureux. Hein. Ouais. Vous m'excuserez, elle est pas moche. Elle est plutôt normale. Mais vous m'expliquez en fait en quoi la romance de dire que cette femme était une magnifique femme qui en gros faisait fantasmer les ados. Excusez-moi, là faut pas déconner quoi. Hein?
Because an upheaval of her life. Okay, so they just went ahead and decided to erase the first 40 years in this official biography. Then 6 months later, in June of 2018, a woman by the name of Virginie Lienhardt, who normally focused on creating documentaries about World War II and the Holocaust, essentially turned the book a biography of Brigitte into a documentary, which was entitled Brigitte Macron ou un roman français, which just means a French novel. And that was released on the France 3 channel. Now, I should mention to you that this is a government-owned channel, okay? It was created in 1969 by the Office of the President. This is like PBS, BBC. Okay, we are not in conspiracy land. This is a reputable woman, Virginie Lienhardt, who makes documentaries. And of course, documentaries are supposed to include a ton of photos. Think about whatever you were watching when you were coming up. For me, maybe Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera documentaries, just filled with photos when you are watching this and you're seeing their siblings and you're seeing them at Disney World and you're seeing them, doing whatever was normal for the time that they were growing up. A Michael Jackson documentary, right? Tons of photos and siblings. And by the way, I want to be clear, Virginie Lienhardt did have tons of photos. Just, almost all of them, again, from Brigitte's teaching days, beginning in 1986 in Strasbourg and ending in Paris in 2015. So I'm going to show you the photos that were in this documentary. First, just showing you this collage, actually, of all of the photos. There you have it. And Mark, I don't know if you need to take me out of that so they can see the full thing. Wait. Okay.
Sexy, hein?
What's going on here? Because I was reliably informed that Brigitte Ozier was a hot, sexy pinup girl with irresistible legs who wore miniskirts, the kind of woman that the boys just couldn't look away from. I don't know, guys, fellas, should I check the chat here? Are you guys, is it getting nasty in the chat? Because I'm not seeing it. I am just not seeing that teacher. Also, where are the miniskirts? Actually, she seems strangely to be wearing a scarf in a lot of these authorized photos. Why was she always covering her neck? That's kind of weird. Here, I'll give you guys some close-ups of that. Maybe you guys are not thinking she's hot. There it is, guys, fellas. Honestly, the guy to the left of her is better looking, in my opinion. I don't know what's happening here. More photos, maybe this one, guys. Guys are making some not nice faces here in the chat. Okay, we'll keep going. Maybe there's going to be some sexy pinup girl. Where's the next one? Ah, there it is. Nope, there it is not. Skylar, these are the ones from the documentary? Maybe my producer made a mistake. Wait, what? Okay, I don't know, guy. I don't know where the pinup girl is. I'm sorry, guys. I feel like I've let you down. Anyways, Virginie Lienhardt, the documentary maker, like I said, is well respected. So surely she must have tried to get many more photos before Brigitte's teaching years, if she's not a fraud.
C'est un point important, encore une fois, hein, qui est marqué par Candace, parce que vous avez tous vu des documentaires sur des documentaires un peu autobiographiques. Je sais pas si vous regardez ça sur Netflix, ou même parfois, là, tu vois, elle parle de France Télévisions, ou sur n'importe quel, comme elle disait, Michael Jackson, etc. Moi, j'ai souvent tendance à en regarder, parce que je suis souvent quelqu'un qui s'intéresse à la réussite des grands de ce monde. Et je regarde des documentaires sur tout, les gars, sur des sportifs, sur des chanteurs, chanteuses. Vous savez, ça peut aller de Michael Jackson. Il y a des documentaires qui ont été faits sur Taylor Swift. Moi, j'adore ce genre de documentaires parce que ça me donne souvent des indices sur comment ces gens-là ont réussi, comment ils se comportent aujourd'hui. Ça peut m'aider, moi aussi, tu vois, peut-être à changer 2-3 trucs dans ma vie, à me poser des questions, etc. Et dans ces documentaires-là, il y a toujours la dose de photos. Ils sont toujours en train de mettre des photos du gamin quand il était petit, des flashbacks de vidéos, parce que quand tu racontes un storytelling, les gens, ils adorent voir en fait la version enfant de l'adulte. Par exemple, si vous regardez un documentaire de Michael Jackson, on va toujours vous remontrer la tête de Michael Jackson au moment où il était avec ses frères, vous savez, avec la grosse touffe de cheveux, etc. Parce que les gens, ils adorent ça. D'accord? Et dans les documentaires qui étaient faits sur Brigitte Macron, il n'y a aucune photo d'elle quand elle était petite. Et ça, elle marque un point clair, Candace Owens, c'est pourquoi nous n'avons aucune photo. Nous n'avons aucune photo de Brigitte Macron quand elle était enfant, parce que dans les documentaires, c'est ce que les gens veulent voir. Mystère.
Then that would have been the first thing she would have tried to do. Interestingly enough, she spoke out regarding just how difficult it was for her to make the documentary. She said, and I quote, "It's difficult to investigate Brigitte Macron, much more than I imagined, on the substance, on the form, on everything. As soon as I started making contacts, I was summoned by Pierre-Olivier Costa, Brigitte's chief of staff, and Tristan Bromet, Brigitte's other chief of staff. It was almost like a police interrogation. What do I want to show? Who will I be interviewing? I made a list of people that I wanted to meet, but I could not apply that list. The interviewees, apart from her former students, all had the authorization of the Élysée Palace and were very careful about what they said. There is a thick wall of silence. The level of control and checking is, well, quite astounding. My documentary is a 90-minute, very personal portrait. For it, I needed photographs of young Brigitte Macron, small children, that would show an itinerary, not those approved by Best Image Agency. What won't be released is anything to do with her former life. It's a total blackout. End quote. Oh, Best Image Agency. Now, didn't we just go over that yesterday? That's Mimi's agency that was authorized.
Ouais, vous vous rappelez de Best Image, là, dont elle parle maintenant, c'est-à-dire qu'en fait c'était la société de photographie et de presse de Mimi Marchand, qu'on avait parlé dans l'épisode précédent, qui détenait en gros l'intégralité de l'image de Brigitte Macron. C'est pour ça que tout ce que vous avez vu dans les bouquins, dans les livres People, etc., bah, c'était toujours la même histoire, parce que Mimi Marchand contrôlait l'intégralité en fait du storytelling autour de Brigitte Macron. Et là, cette journaliste qui a donc fait le documentaire voulait se procurer des photos de Brigitte quand elle était petite pour justement remplir le documentaire. Et ben, elle n'a jamais eu de photos en fait. Et l'intégralité des photos qui lui ont été données appartenait à Best Image, qui était donc la société de Mimi Marchand, qui détenait l'intégralité des photos de Brigitte Macron.
Photos that were allowed to go out. So apparently Mimi's agency authorized the photos that could go out for this documentary as well. Now, Virginie Linhart did, however, receive 2 photos from Brigitte's alleged childhood. One, the public was told, was from Brigitte, then Trogneau, would have been her last name, her first communion. I'm going to show you that photo. Here it is. And another photo, now infamous photo, of the entire Trogneau family, allegedly taken about a year after Brigitte's birth, okay? That is the full Trogneau family photo, which we will come back to.
Les 2 photos que vous venez de voir, on les a tous vues, en fait, on les a tous vues passer, on en a parlé dans les épisodes précédents, etc. En fait, c'est les 2 seules photos de l'enfance de Brigitte Macron qui ont été diffusées et qui ont été données aux médias. D'accord? Dans ces 2 photos, moi, si je prends un œil avec du recul, mais il n'y a rien qui me prouve que sur cette photo, Brigitte Macron, elle est là. Parce que la petite que vous voyez sur les genoux de la mère, vous m'excuserez, mais de là, aller retrouver une ressemblance avec Brigitte Macron, ça va quand même être très compliqué. Je trouve même que la grande, qui est en haut à droite, lui ressemble plus que la toute petite qui est sur les genoux de la mère. Et la photo de la communion que vous avez juste avant, il n'y a rien qui rapproche cette gamine de Brigitte Macron. Vous allez même voir qu'elle va vous montrer, Candace, la photo de Tiphaine, qui est donc la fille de Brigitte Macron. Et excusez-moi, mais Tiphaine ressemble vraiment à la gamine de la communion. Donc regardez.
So now really all that was missing from that photo of her communion until the school photos, which appear in 1986, was 23 years of Brigitte's life, the most crucial years of her life. You know, like, I don't know, her being a teenager, her getting married at 21, her allegedly having 3 babies, her getting married to a banker named Andre Louise Ozier, who was her husband of 32 years. Like, I don't know. Do people not take photos of them and their husbands in France? I don't know. Virginie Linhart actually referred to Andre Louise Ozier, Brigitte's alleged husband of 32 years, as the French Republic's best kept secret. And certainly, you guys, it appeared that way. Because at the time the documentary was released, there was only 1 photo that was available of her ex-husband that had even made its way onto Wikipedia as her ex-husband. There it is, Andre Louise Ozier. You can see it has his date of birth, and it has his date of death, and it has the dates that they were married from 1974 to 2006. All of that is correct, except for the photo itself. Yeah, could you pull that up again? That photo, it turned out, was not actually Andre Louise Ozier, because a former student who had gone on to become a politician, his name is Francois Ruffin, also went to Providence School, and he came out and said, "That's not Andre Louise Ozier. That's Mr. Hugo, a teacher at the school. Oopsies." Whatever. But I gotta tell you, that oopsie did make the public.
Ça, il va quand même falloir qu'on aille vérifier, parce que si c'est ça, il va falloir expliquer quand même. Parce que là, on parle de la photo de l'ex-mari de Brigitte Macron, avec lequel elle a eu 3 enfants. Et bah, d'après François Ruffin, j'ai l'impression que c'était Ruffin hein, dont elle parlait, bah, qui était également dans la même école, c'était absolument pas André-Louis Osière. Ce serait en fait un professeur de l'école dans laquelle était Brigitte. Donc là, il va vraiment falloir nous expliquer pourquoi l'homme sur la photo ne serait pas l'ex-mari de Brigitte Macron.
What's going on here, man? This is kind of getting weird. It's a little weird, okay? And I have to tell you guys, there was some immediate feedback from the public. Some early musings, if you will, about the two photos, which had been released from Brigitte's alleged childhood. Foremost, the communion photo caused a bit of a stir. Because many felt that it was a dead ringer, that photo, not of First Lady Brigitte Macron, who was side by side here, Brigitte Osière and her alleged communion photo. They didn't feel like that was strong, but they did feel that it was a dead ringer for her very chatty daughter, Tefan. I thought, that looks like Tefan, okay?
Alors je sais pas, vous dites-moi en commentaire si vous trouvez que la gamine à droite ressemble à Tiffen ou ressemble à Brigitte. Moi j'essaie de bien regarder au niveau du... C'est surtout le regard, moi, qui m'intéresse. Alors, je pourrais pas vous affirmer à 2000% que Tiffen est la gamine sur la photo, mais quand même. Je sais pas. La taille du front... Le nez, je sais pas, j'ai l'impression... Après, l'angle de la tête là, de Tiffen à gauche, elle monte. Là, la gamine, c'est plutôt droit. Donc, c'est difficile de se prononcer par rapport au nez. Mais quand même, vous allez pas me faire croire que la gamine qui est à droite, elle ressemble à Brigitte Macron. Soyons sérieux. Honnêtement. Moi, je veux bien hein, qu'on change, etc. Mais là, il n'y a rien, il n'y a aucun trait, en fait, de Brigitte dans la photo de la petite. Voilà, qu'on vienne pas me raconter des salades, parce que moi je peux retrouver des photos de moi quand j'étais petit, croyez-moi, je vais encore retrouver quelques petites ressemblances.
And like I said, she was the only daughter, the only child of Brigitte that was willing to participate in the documentary. She was willing to speak to Virginie for like an hour. And like I said, it doesn't help that Best Image, the photo agency, had supplied the image. People were wondering, and I will include myself in this, was it perhaps edited? No. Mimi, as we learn later on, has been accused of a lot of forgery and stuff and all sorts of crimes, man. You gotta look into Mimi Marchand. So it's not like totally crazy to wonder if maybe she's being used because she does play around a bit and she's willing to do crimes, you know? So yeah, it was in fact, my musings about that was one of the areas of nitpick, one of the areas that the Macrons had included when they initially sent me the first strongly worded letter, because I had claimed on a show dating back to March of last year that the photo was recolorized. I looked at it and I said, that photo looks too new. It looks like it's recolorized. Now, having it, and I was just getting into this bizarre story, and so I was just investigating, asking questions, reading other people's investigations. Now I'm a lot deeper on the facts, and I now know for a fact that that photo was not recolorized, okay? Similarly, at the beginning when I was trying to understand this case, I had asked Xavier Poussard about the theory, which a lot of people were wondering, which was, did the real Brigitte Trogneau die when she was a child? And did perhaps Brigitte Macron take her identity? Again, that was a theory that was floating around the internet. And I now know for a fact that no, she did not die when she was a child. So let's go back actually and take a look at their first carefully...
Alors ça c'est important parce que j'ai fait un live après le premier épisode où on est venu m'expliquer que la petite qui était sur les genoux, là sur la photo de famille que vous avez vue avant, c'était Brigitte Trogneux et qu'en fait elle serait morte quand elle était enfant. Donc là, Candace Owens vient de péter le mythe des gens qui m'ont dit ça, parce qu'apparemment, justement, la petite ne serait pas décédée quand elle était petite. Donc, du coup, elle met quand même fin à une rumeur qui était quand même persistante. Hein.
Legal letter to me. This is their repeat strategy. I'm going to keep reminding you of this. The way that they sue people, the way that they go after people in court is they ignore the substance of the claims. Substance being, was current First Lady Brigitte Macron born a biological male? It's a simple yes or no question. And instead of attacking that, they wait for people to make a mistake as they try to garner the answer. And of course, mistakes will be made. Of course, you could say this photo is recolorized and they go, boop, go after her. Go after her. If she suspects saying that Brigitte Macron died as a child, go after her. So this is the legal letter. We'll show you that. They wrote, your discrediting of these photos is not only without merit, but also internally inconsistent. In your episodes on March 11th and March 13th and June 17th, you claimed that the first communion photo is an altered image of Tifone Ozier. However, in your August 30 podcast, you agreed with Poussard that the photo depicts the real Brigitte Macron before she passed away at a young age, another falsehood. Now, I want to be very clear, Xavier Poussard has never said that Brigitte Macron passed away at a young age, but I may have asked him the question and was speculating about whether or not she passed away, which they claim is another falsehood. And then they say both hypotheses could not be further from the truth. Moreover, you allege that the first communion photo had been debunked repeatedly and that the press now states its attribution to Mrs. Macron was a mistake, but you have not cited any outlets or articles retracting the photo. Surely you would provide this devastating proof if you had it, but you do not. Okay. Do a little dance there. Why do they not just simply state who the person in the communion photo is? Why not just say plainly, if you're going to write a legal letter, Candace, the person in this communion photo is not Tifone Ozier, and the photo is not recolorized, and it isn't.
Le point qu'elle essaie de montrer en fait aujourd'hui, parce qu'elle avait supposé, par exemple, que Brigitte Trogneux, la petite qui était sur les joues de la mère, elle avait demandé à Xavier Poussard si elle pouvait être décédée. Elle avait soumis une sorte de question un petit peu dirigée, parce qu'elle pensait vraiment peut-être au fond d'elle que c'était le cas. Donc ça avait été démenti par Xavier Poussard. Donc les avocats Macron lui sont tombés dessus en disant qu'elle avait partagé une fausse information, alors que non, elle posait une question. Et aujourd'hui, toutes les lettres de menaces qu'elle reçoit sont des lettres de menaces qui ne traitent jamais du fond, d'accord? C'est-à-dire qu'ils essaient de chercher à chaque fois dans les discours de Candace Owens une sorte de passage qui pourrait être considéré comme de la diffamation pour pouvoir l'attaquer en justice, mais ils ne répondent jamais en fait aux fausses accusations qu'ils estiment fausses de Candace Owens, c'est-à-dire que c'est toujours oui tu as dit ça et c'est pas vrai, oui tu as dit ça, mais ils viennent jamais en fait répondre clairement à une question. Ils ne vous disent pas si la photo elle a été recolorée, ils ne vous disent pas, ils veulent pas répondre aux questions de Candace, en fait ils attendent juste qu'elle commette une erreur pour pouvoir l'attaquer en diffamation. Et ça c'est les techniques qu'ils utilisent en permanence pour faire pour mettre la pression sur les journalistes et clairement essayer de les intimider au maximum pour qu'ils arrêtent leur enquête.
First Lady Brigitte Macron. They don't do that. They never do that. Why not also simply state what the truth is rather than saying that the hypotheses are far from the truth? So of course, now we're like a year on, I'm now armed with a much fuller picture of what happened, what the truth might really be. And so my legal team, as you remember, included a very straightforward yes or no question back to them, back to the couple in good faith regarding the girl in the communion photo. And we wrote this, number 4. Is the little girl pictured in the communion photograph, allegedly from 1963, the Brigitte Macron that is currently married to President Macron? You guys know what happens next. No response. No response. They're angry. You said it was recolorized. You said Brigitte Macron had died when she was a child. It's defamation. That's defamation. But we can't tell you what the truth is. They knew by then, in terms of how specific my questions were getting, they knew that I was on to them, that I had worked through the investigation, that I had arrived at more correct conclusions, that I was doing less musing, okay? Not for a single second did we believe that they were going to answer our questions, and they have not yet. They just send us more letters and more ridiculous things where they don't assert what the truth actually is. Now, regarding the second photo of Brigitte's alleged childhood, which the documentary presented, let's take a look at it so you can understand what was so explosive about it. This full family Trogno photo of them in Amiens, okay? Observations, again, were immediately made by the public. People are allowed to think. They are allowed to have thoughts. They are allowed to ask questions, okay? First and foremost, people thought they were being told that Brigitte is this little girl in the lap of her mother sitting here in the front. But the public, just quickly taking a glance here, thought, wait a second, Brigitte looks more like that little boy on the far left. And wait a second, who is that little boy on the far left? He's completely unaccounted for. Thus far, okay, leading up to this moment, despite so much press surrounding Brigitte, her life, her married life, her being a teacher, despite entire genealogical websites that were dedicated to her family, there was no mention on these genealogical websites or in the press of the boy on the far left, okay? So that became the dog that wasn't barking, okay? For clarity, there had been only one brother that was publicly accounted for, Brigitte's older brother. We'll show you a picture again. He is the one standing in the back. That is Jean-Claude. And the interested public were now being introduced suddenly to a second mysterious brother, and they would find out that his name was Jean-Michel Trogneux. I'm going to take a brief pause here before I bring in Emmanuel Macron's strange story. First, just to throw it to one of our amazing sponsors, Preborn, because if you want to hear some great news, the abortion pill over...
Bon, le temps qu'elle fasse sa pub, vous avez bien vu sur la photo qu'ils avaient présenté au public, qu'ils ont présenté au public en fait que Brigitte Macron était la petite fille assise sur les genoux de la mère, et ils n'ont jamais porté mention du petit enfant, du petit garçon qui est sur la gauche. Alors c'est quand même un peu étonnant parce qu'il y a quand même eu des autobiographies qui ont été faites sur Brigitte Macron, des documentaires qui ont été faits. Ils sont venus vous expliquer dans la presse la magnifique prof de théâtre, machin, qu'elle était quand elle était plus jeune, dans la quarantaine, etc. Ils ont mentionné son grand frère que vous voyez derrière sur la photo. Mais jamais ils ont mentionné le petit, c'est-à-dire qu'ils n'en parlent jamais. C'est-à-dire que le petit que vous avez à gauche, qui est censé être Jean-Michel Trogneux, bah, il n'y a rien. Ils n'en parlent pas du tout dans aucun des bouquins, dans aucune des autobiographies, nulle part. C'est-à-dire que vous allez voir aucune photo de cette personne. Et c'est vrai que là, c'est plutôt troublant. On va revenir sur notre ami. On va avancer un peu parce que...
when we try to take control of it ourselves, and that's why you need to reclaim your own health. Fieldofgreens.com and use my code Candace. That's fieldofgreens.com, code Candace. All right, guys, we're just warming up. So it feels like we're falling down a hole. I'm not sure why. It's weird. And again, these are all mainstream journalists, so I don't know what I did wrong here by presenting it to the world so that they could see that something weird has been going on in France for quite some time. And rather than the public, or rather the mainstream media being interested in it, they just keep smearing everybody as like far-right conspiracy theorists. Every journalist I've mentioned thus far is on the left. In fact, many of these people were excited about giving Brigitte a platform because they themselves are feminists. And finally they said, let me profile this woman. And then they realized something is very wrong here. Something I cannot, why am I being called in to the Élysée Palace? What have I done wrong? Why does this feel like a police interrogation? I'm just trying to ask some questions. But it's not just Brigitte. Now let's discuss Emmanuel Macron's biography because it's pretty interesting. This guy. So the story goes that he, like Brigitte, was born in Amiens. Amiens is the capital town or city within the department of Somme, okay? So in France, they call these departments. I like to think of departments as states if you're from America. And so think of Amiens as the capital of the state of Somme. Amiens also has a ton of history dating back to the Middle Ages because it is the ancient capital of Picardy, which, just to be clear, that just means like northern France. I'm telling you that for a reason. Now, jumping back into his biography, I am now going to read directly from journalist Hussard's forthcoming book, which we should be announcing for you guys this week. He writes, quote, Emmanuel Macron remains a mystery to those who went to school with him. His former classmates describe him as, quote, the only one we didn't know anything about, neither where he spent his vacations nor what his parents did for a living. They describe him as a loner, not much socialized, not gathering others around him. Later, at the school, Henry IV, he stayed in the background, elusive. Quote, he maintained an air of mystery, a parallel life of which we knew nothing. No one knows of any close friends among his 48 fellow students. He had a very striking chameleon-like manner, end quote. Emmanuel Macron's early life before he met Brigitte is similarly a black hole. Journalists who have tried to cover the subject have all fallen back on cross portraits for lack of material, testimonials, photographs, etc. The information that could be gathered can be summed up in a few lines. Xavier goes on and says, born on December 21st, 1977 in Amiens, Emmanuel Macron spent his childhood on Rue Gautier de Rumilly, a street in Henryville, which is the upscale district of Amiens, in a house that was bought in 1982 by his parents, Jean-Michel Macron, a neuropsychiatrist at Amiens University Hospital, from a Picard.
Bon, je coupe pas trop longtemps. Elle est en train d'expliquer que dans les histoires, pour l'instant, Emmanuel Macron est né à Amiens, en Picardie, etc. Donc elle a refait un petit peu l'histoire de la Picardie, d'Amiens, etc. Mais écoutez, c'est très intéressant et je vais couper juste après qu'elle vous ait annoncé ce qu'elle a à dire.
And François Nogue, that would be his mother, a pediatrician who became an expert for Social Security. I'm just going to pause before I jump into Xavier's script here, so you get the picture, okay? His dad is a psychiatrist. His mom is a doctor to children. Interesting combo. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying for right now. But I'm going to say a lot more. Her family originates from, and this is François Nogue, his mother, from Bagneres, and that is in the Hautes-Pyrénées region. I'm going to talk about that later. The couple had two more children. So Emmanuel, born in 1977. Then came Laurent, born in 1979, his brother, and Estelle, his sister, born in 1982, all born within 5 years of one another. Both physicians before divorcing in 2010. Emmanuel Macron also has a half-brother. His name is Gabriel. He was born in 2005 from his father's second marriage to a woman named Helene Joly, also a psychiatrist at the Institute of Educational Medicine in Somme. Okay. Now, in 2017, Emmanuel Macron released his own autobiography, which was entitled Revolution. Okay?
La révolution de Macron, les gars.
He provided very few scant details about his background, and it was actually Sylvie Bamel, an independent journalist who writes for Vanity Fair. Again, we are on Reddit threads, guys. We're not in the deep web. Who summed up his autobiography this way. This is what she said about his autobiography. In Revolution, Emmanuel devotes 5 pages to his maternal grandmother, only 1 to his parents, and 2 lines to his brother Laurent and his sister Estelle. Nor is there any mention of his half-brother Gabriel, born in 2005 from his father's second marriage, and even less of his father's companion Helene. Conversely, he scrupulously mentions the first names of Brigitte's 3 children and their spouses, as well as those of her 7 grandchildren. She has since had an 8th one. On the day of the inauguration, the Oziers were the only ones to tread the red carpet leading up to the Élysée Palace. Tifon and Laurence, blonde, slim, and elegant, and their brother Sebastian, all accompanied by their spouses and their children. The estrangement is reciprocal. In 2014, a colleague of his brother Laurent at the hospital asked him if Macron, working with François Hollande at the time at the Élysée Palace, was a close relative. No, he's a vague cousin. Everyone's bugging me about this guy, replied his brother Laurent. Okay, maybe Laurent just didn't want to be asked about a question about a minister and just said that. A bit weird. Then a woman named Nicole, who is a first cousin of Emmanuel's mother, Frances Nogue, similarly told a reporter that she hardly ever saw Emmanuel's alleged sister, Estelle. That's very weird, okay? Sylvie Bamel, again, the journalist and a fair writer, reputable mainstream media, also said this. She said, quote, I had a hard time finding Emmanuel's friends. He never talked about his family. We are hard-pressed to find any photos of his early years. When, as a grown-up, he launched his presidential campaign, many political analysts noted that his communications were inspired by Obama. Even if this is the case, he has neglected his early childhood. Anyone interested in the former United States President, Obama, can have with emotion at baby Barack in a romper suit, the chubby kid wielding his first baseball bat, the kid with 2 holes where he just lost his baby teeth. In short, watching him grow up. Our president's photo album begins in his 10th year. The shot was taken in the choir of the chapel of the La Providence School, with Emmanuel reading a passage from the Bible. Around his neck, a shiny medal worn for the first time marks the day of his baptism at age 12. Francois and Jean-Michel have a distant relationship with religion. Of course, they were married in a church to enjoy the pomp of the event and gather their families. They never considered having the baby baptized. Wow. Life dark.
Ok, après, bon, les histoires de baptême, etc., je m'en fous un peu. Mais voilà, encore une fois, il y a quand même un mystère. On a quand même Emmanuel Macron qui a aucune photo de lui avant ses 10 ans. Je vous ai dit 12 tout à l'heure, mais apparemment c'est 10. C'est quand même assez troublant, hein. Ah, je sais pas, même ma mère hein, qui a eu un problème d'humidité dans la cave, elle a perdu plein de photos. Moi, je peux vous retrouver des photos de moi quand j'étais petit, quoi. C'est bizarre.
Age of 12 in photos? That's a bit weird. Here are the 3 photos she's referring to, by the way, which were widely considered to be the first known photos of Emmanuel Macron. One that she's describing from his baptism, one from his 7th grade year at Providence, and the third, which is another one from his studies. It's almost like he grew up in the Providence school with Brigitte, right? Uh-oh, there's going to be a quote, and I'm going to get a letter from Emmanuel. You said he grew up in the school. That didn't happen. We're suing you for defamation. Oddly, however, I should mention that when Xavier Poussard kept digging, he did find that there were some uncredited and seemingly unauthorized photos that appeared in, you guessed it, Paris Match, one of Mimi Marchand's favorite publications, in May of 2017, when we know Mimi Marchand, the PR killer, so to speak, figuratively, was running the comms for them. So in May of 2017, these photos appeared, and I'm going to show you those. Okay, so we're seeing a kid. It tells us.
Ah oui, c'est Macron. Je crois que c'est une fille.
Emmanuel Macron when he was 3 years old. By the way, if you guys are French and watching this, if somebody could identify those sneakers, that would be amazing. Later on in the comments, I'll get a close-up of that for you guys. I'm just curious as to what sneaker brand that is. It says he's reading Sylvester and Tweety with his crazy blonde hair, and that one in the bottom right is supposed to be him at his father's office of medicine. And you'll notice that, again, these young photos, he's got all of these siblings. There's no photos of him with his siblings. And who authorized these photos? They're literally not credited in that magazine issue of where these photos came from. And they are never again included in any biography, whether it's autobiography, whether it's an authorized biography or an unauthorized biography. We don't get to see those photos again. Okay. So to recap, the Macron side of the family.
Bon, il y a mon chien, il fait que de ronfler. J'espère que vous ne l'entendez pas.
They're supposed to be Picardy. Yet when another journalist, a gay journalist named Hervé Algaloranda, and why I'm telling you he's gay and openly gay is not to call him out, but because don't forget a big piece of what the media says is that everybody's LGBTQ phobic. That's the reason why anybody is even saying anything about her. Well, this guy certainly is not, okay? Hervé Algaloranda made what is likely the greatest effort to look into Emmanuel Macron's upbringing in his investigative book, which in English is Two Young French Women, okay? And he similarly found some really odd things. Foremost, the former mayor of Amiens, a man's name Guy de Robian, I'm showing you him right there, who was close with the Trogno family because Amiens is close-knit, and therefore in no way was trying to shade them or harm them in any way, said this about Emmanuel Macron. He said, Macron is not Amiénois. He is Touquetois. Meaning, he's not like from the town of Amiens. He's like from Le Touquet, which is, Le Touquet is a seaside town in France. What did he mean by that? What do you mean he's a Touquetian? Is he suggesting that Macron...
Là, il y a un énorme problème. Alors... Il faudrait aller voir. J'y étais vite fait, mais vraiment vite fait hier soir, vérifier. J'ai été sur Google, j'ai même demandé à ChatGPT le lieu de naissance d'Emmanuel Macron et tout le monde est formel. Ils expliquent bien qu'il est né à Amiens. Donc ça veut dire que dans l'intégralité en fait de la presse que vous voyez, vu que ChatGPT et que Google se réfèrent à des articles qui apparaissent directement sur les moteurs de recherche, ça veut dire que l'intégralité de l'histoire autour d'Emmanuel Macron a été faite sur le fait qu'il est né à Amiens. Alors comment vous pouvez expliquer que l'ancien maire d'Amiens, je ne sais pas s'il est encore maire à l'heure actuelle, vienne nous expliquer en fait qu'il est né au Touquet. Je ne sais pas si vous avez suivi récemment, mais avant le premier épisode de Candace Owens, on a appris que la maison de vacances, donc la résidence secondaire des Macron au Touquet avait été mise en vente. Et cette histoire est un peu louche. Il faudrait arriver à trouver quelque chose de plus précis dessus, mais il se dirait que d'après le maire d'Amiens, bah, Macron il n'est pas né à Amiens. Alors pourquoi ils sont tous venus expliquer qu'il est né à Amiens? Moi, pas comprendre.
Is not from Amiens at all? Because that would be weird. Why wouldn't a city mayor in which the president of France was born in want to take full credit for his birth? Like, yes, Emmanuel Macron is from here. Maybe he just meant that he spent more of his time or the most of his time outside of the city. I don't know what he meant by this, but he said it, at least according to that book. Surely they would want to claim him, right? But people even called into question Macron's interest in his own birthplace of Amiens, because from that very same book, we find out that Emmanuel Macron, quote, skipped the commemoration while he was in office of the centenary of the Battle of Amiens on August 8, 2018. The Amiens-born Macron was conspicuously absent, while Theresa May, then the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, and Prince William, one of Queen Elizabeth's grandsons, were present. The English had stood shoulder to shoulder with the French in the Battle of World War I, the start of the Allies' victorious offensive. Emmanuel Macron did not attend the celebration, even though his family's birthplace, Auffy, it's another city, was on the front line of another famous battle, the Battle of Somme. And the castle housed a field hospital, even though he knows full well, as he has mentioned in several speeches, that Picardy still bears the scars of the wars against Germany. Okay, maybe he was busy that day. Let's not get too crazy. Also, I should mention that before Emmanuel had entered the political scene in 2012, he had considered running for municipal office, but never in the Picardy region. Only in Pas de Calais, which is further north. That's the same Pas de Calais that Brigitte worked within as a press secretary. Maybe that's why. Maybe they were already in the midst of their affair. I'm not sure. And then it's just about to get outright embarrassing, okay? When you consider the massive blunder that gets made by President Emmanuel Macron in regards to the other side of his family roots, the Nogue, right? His mom's side. Antoine Nogue is his mom. Françoise Nogue is his mom. Remember, her family traces back to the town of Haute. That is a region of Pyrenees, okay? Think of the Pyrenees Mountains. Basically, they border Spain and France. So there's a lot of different spoken languages, a few different spoken languages in that region historically. So Macron, in his presidential capacity, goes to visit Andorra in 2018, and he presents himself as a child of the Pyrenees, okay? And this exchange happens between him and a Corsican national official. His name was Xavier Luciani. And it was captured, this exchange was captured by a journalist from Express magazine. Because, you know, when presidents travel, they have like the pool of journalists that travel with them. And they're recording and they're listening to the conversations. And he's speaking to this Andorran guy. And the journalist writes that Macron said this, quote, I had great-grandparents who were Begordin, and they only spoke Pyrenean. Their sole aim in life was that my grandmother would attend a state school to learn French. Think about it. End quote.
Je vous coupe parce que du coup, ça n'a pas été traduit. En fait, vous aviez Emmanuel Macron qui parlait donc à un Corse, Xavier Luciani. Et la conversation a été prise par un journaliste à l'époque qui en gros a entendu la conversation et Emmanuel Macron venait expliquer que sa grand-mère en gros parlait pyrénéen. Sachant que cette langue n'existe pas. En fait, vous avez en Occitanie, par exemple, l'occitan, on parle le catalan, il y a plusieurs langues, mais le pyrénéen, ça n'existe pas, quoi. C'est-à-dire que c'est un peu bizarre, quoi.
So he's opening up here. Now we know he was close with his grandmother. He wrote the most about his grandmother in his book, The Republic, and he's saying that his grandmother, like the sole aim of her parents was for his grandmother to stop speaking Pyrenean and to go to a school and learn French. Go to a state school and learn French. And he goes, think about it. Think about how amazing now. He's the president of France. And that was all his great-grandparents wanted for his beloved grandmother. And you know what? That politician did think about it, probably not for very long, because it turns out that Pyrenean is not and has never been a language. It's just amazing. That is just amazing. No, it's never been a language. They didn't know what the heck he was talking about. They're like, what are you talking about, Pyrenean? What is that? That's not a thing. People here speak a bunch of different languages, and that's not one of them. It's Occitan, Catalan. Nobody speaks Pyrenean. What are you trying to say, man? So he just made up a piece of his childhood. So that was weird. That was real weird, man. Real weird to be emotionally attached to a language that never existed. Anyways, back to the journalist Hervé Alga Lorando. He tried desperately thereafter to speak to anyone in the Macron family, but they were as thick as thieves, okay? He got shot down.
Le seul problème que j'ai un petit peu parfois avec Candace Owens, c'est que il y a certains détails qui sont un petit peu futiles, quoi. Vous savez, c'est pas... Vous voyez ce détail où Emmanuel Macron est en train de parler avec un gars, où il a dit que sa grand-mère, elle parlait pas français, elle parlait pyrénéen. Alors même si la langue pyrénéenne, elle n'existe pas, qui n'a pas déjà inventé des conneries sur sa vie, quoi? Tu vois ce que je veux dire, quand tu parles avec quelqu'un dans la rue, en plus là il parle, il y a un journaliste qui prend la conversation un petit peu en loose day. Enfin, c'est un petit peu des détails qui servent à rien. Vous voyez ce que je veux dire? Moi, ça me fait pas avancer dans le truc. Est-ce que le fait de savoir ça va me convaincre que Brigitte Macron est un homme, que lui et ça... Je sais pas, je trouve ça un peu futile. Je sais pas pour vous, mais c'est le genre d'information, moi ça ne m'intéresse pas, je m'en fous, quoi.
Then there was an official in Bigoret who gave him an idea. Okay, and the idea that came across his mind was, you know what, I want to learn about Emmanuel Macron's history, I should speak to Brigitte. Weird, right? The reason why this idea popped into his mind was that official told him that when Emmanuel Macron had visited Bagnoret, okay, another city, out of civility, he was making conversation, and he asked Emmanuel Macron about his sister Estelle, because she lived nearby. And he says that apparently Emmanuel Macron turned to Brigitte to know what to answer. He turned to his wife to know what to answer about his sister. I don't know about how you guys are feeling right now, but I'm starting to get a little icky feeling. It's all starting to feel a bit, I don't know, incestuous to me, you know? Like, why is she know so much, and why is he like more into her family? I don't know, it's very weird. Right, we should probably pause there, but for fun, I am going to tease you with two photos. And I want you guys to know this is real. This is not.
Là, elle va se faire taper dessus deux fois. Hein. Elle va se faire taper dessus parce qu'elle vient d'insinuer en fait que y avait de l'inceste dans la famille. Donc en fait, elle était surprise qu'on lui pose une question sur sa sœur à Macron et qu'il se tourne vers sa femme pour que sa femme réponde à propos de la sœur. On va rentrer dans cette histoire d'inceste oui, il y a des doutes, clairement, et on va y arriver au fur et à mesure, vous allez voir là avant la fin de l'épisode, et c'est la fin de l'épisode qui va vous donner le ton de la suite.
Okay, because next episode we're going to get into Jean-Michel Trogneau, the sibling that has now suddenly appeared for the first time. The public is being made aware of him, and Jean-Michel Trogneau allegedly has a son. Okay, allegedly this guy, whoever he is, Jean-Michel Trogneau, who seems to be missing, has a son named Jean-Jacques, who is not missing. Jean-Jacques is not missing. And I'm going to just give you a side-by-side of Jean-Jacques and Emmanuel Macron. Okay? And here's another one of Jean-Jacques and Emmanuel Macron. Now, these two are not related, okay? The one on the left is allegedly Brigitte, who claims she is not Jean-Michel Trogneau. That's allegedly Brigitte's nephew. That is Jean-Michel Trogneau's son. This is not the Macron side of the family, okay? This is Brigitte. This is the Trogneau side of the family. And that's her husband. And it is just amazing. It is just amazing. But ladies and gentlemen, do not believe your own eyes. Not believe your own eyes. You know what we should do in this next episode? We have absolutely got to get into his grandma, the one who at some point, I guess, must have spoke Perennian. I don't know, something like that. Because then things are going to start to get really interesting. And then we're going to learn a bit more about him.
Attendez, il faut qu'on revienne là, parce que là, il n'y a vraiment rien qui va, là. Là, il n'y a rien qui va, parce que lui, en fait, donc c'est, si j'ai bien compris, c'est le frère de Jean-Michel Trogneux. Donc c'est le neveu... Attendez que je dise pas de conneries. Elle a bien dit que c'était le neveu de Brigitte, hein, c'est ça? Excusez-moi, mais là, il y a quoi? Moi, je l'avais déjà vu, cette photo, mais là, les deux côte à côte, c'est violent quand même, quoi. On a le même pif. On a un petit peu le même regard de psychopathe. C'est un peu bizarre, quand même. Vous avez un air de famille, non? C'est de plus en plus perturbant. Là, dites-moi en commentaire, mais là... Putain, j'ai même l'impression qu'ils ont la même implantation de cheveux, presque. C'est un truc de fou, quoi. Elles ont le même nez, une implantation de cheveux à peu près similaire. Vous savez que ce qui est drôle avec les implantations de cheveux, c'est que moi, j'ai exactement la même implantation que mon frère. On se ressemble un petit peu, on a la même implantation de cheveux. Là, c'est quand même bien étrange, hein. On va revenir, on était à 42,37. Hop, on va aller par là. Bizarre.
His dad, the psychiatrist, and some things that he kind of left out about them, and what kind of work were these psychiatrists and pediatricians involved in? And then maybe we're going to start patching in some ideas about what might have been going on politically at that time while he was growing up, and this is going to turn into a scary story. Not wait to read your questions, guys. First, want to tell you about American financing, because a lot of Americans are carrying high credit card balances that charge 20% or more each and every month. One more time, Skylar, Chris, give it to me one more time. Okay. Next one, show it to me again. What the...
Ah, celle-là, je voulais la voir.
No, they're not, guys. They're not. Whatever you're thinking, I want you to know you're a far-right creep.
Ah, c'est violent quand même, hein. Il y a quoi... C'est pas la même personne, mais il y a quand même un air, quoi. C'est vraiment bizarre. C'est bizarre. Ah, écoutez, affaire à suivre là-dessus.
Conspiracy theorist, not to child. Okay? So don't. Just stop it. Do not believe your own eyes. We will tell you what to think, okay? We are the mainstream media. This is what we do. Everybody's crazy except for us. Everybody is bad except for us. Everybody is in the business of fake news except for us. We tell the truth no matter what. Journalists today, I think, are a bit like prostitutes, right? How much to make you say whatever. That's how I feel, at least, on the inside.
Voilà, là-dessus, je la rejoins complètement. Alors, l'épisode, il est terminé parce qu'après avoir répondu aux questions, enfin, c'est même pas des questions, en fait, c'est des gens qui la praise, là, qui la mettent un petit peu bien, donc elle est contente, elle lit les commentaires, enfin bref. Que retenir de cet épisode? On n'a pas non plus appris de fou. Il va quand même falloir résoudre le mystère du lieu de naissance de Macron, parce que encore une fois, c'est pas le fait de dire là où il est né va changer notre vie, on s'en fout, mais non, parce que si c'est un mensonge de dire qu'il est né à Amiens alors qu'il est né au Touquet, ça veut dire qu'il y a encore une histoire qui est complètement inventée derrière, et c'est là où on veut des réponses, parce que ça veut dire que s'ils ont menti sur son lieu de naissance, ça veut dire que toute la biographie qui a été faite sur Macron est fausse. Et dans ces cas-là, on est dans de la manipulation et il va falloir qu'on nous raconte la vraie histoire, parce que la vraie histoire peut cacher des choses beaucoup plus graves. Le mystère absolu, c'est là les dernières photos, hein, qu'on a vues. Là, les dernières photos sont absolument troublantes. On parle quand même d'un membre de la famille de Brigitte Macron. Ce qui voudrait, au fur et à mesure, dire que pourquoi pas Emmanuel Macron serait de la famille de Brigitte Macron, ce qui nous arriverait à ce qu'a supposé Candace Owens, c'est qu'il y aurait de l'inceste à l'intérieur de la famille. On va en savoir plus bientôt. Alors elle va doucement, je ne sais pas combien d'épisodes elle a prévu, il y en a beaucoup, vous m'avez dit 6 hier pendant le live, il y en a qui m'ont envoyé des messages ce matin pour me dire 10 parce qu'elle a trop d'informations. Alors écoutez, moi j'ai pas vu d'informations officielles, mais apparemment il y en aurait 6. Donc écoutez, on verra. Je sais pas quand est-ce qu'est le prochain épisode. J'espère qu'elle va pas le fourrer ce soir, parce que ce soir je suis à l'aéroport. Et bah demain, quoique j'aurai peut-être le temps de vous faire un débrief au cas où, mais bon, c'est un peu relou parce que j'arrive sur Dubaï dans la matinée. Voilà, donc que retenir de cet épisode? On continue un petit peu dans l'histoire qui a été créée autour de Brigitte Macron quand elle est petite, avec aucune photo, c'est-à-dire une histoire qui est complètement montée, dont on n'a aucune information réelle, parce que c'est que il n'y a rien qui prouve, encore une fois, avec des photos, parce qu'on demande en fait à Candace Owens de prouver ses allégations, mais il faudrait demander à Brigitte Macron de nous prouver que tout ce qui est dit dans les bouquins est vrai, parce qu'elle ne peut pas le prouver aujourd'hui. Cette photo de communion qu'on a passée, on sait très bien que c'est pas Brigitte Macron dessus, il faut arrêter de nous prendre pour des cons, même si un enfant ne ressemble pas à 100% à sa version adulte, excusez-moi, mais il y a quand même des traits qui restent. Moi je ressemble pas à Brad Pitt quand j'étais petit, et à Coach Didi, Dylan, à 36 ans, faut arrêter de prendre les gens pour des teubés. Qu'est-ce qu'on apprend d'autre? Je vous ai dit un petit peu sur le fait qu'Emmanuel Macron soit né au mauvais endroit. Bizarrement, le maire nous dit l'inverse. Voilà, il n'y a pas non plus 50 milliards de choses à tirer de cet épisode. Je vous le dis sincèrement, j'en ai appris plus dans les épisodes précédents. Maintenant, ça ouvre encore des interrogations. Donc on va continuer de suivre, c'est toujours aussi intéressant. Si vous avez des remarques particulières à faire sur cet épisode, marquez-les en commentaire. Surtout, n'oubliez pas de vous abonner. Et puis moi, sur ce, je vais vous souhaiter une bonne journée, parce que là, il est 6h55, il faut que j'aille préparer mes valises, il faut que je range ma maison, il faut que je fasse tout, il faut que j'aille déposer mes chiens, enfin bref, parcours du combattant, parce que je suis aussi entraîneur de tennis au passage, il faut que j'aille travailler quelques heures avant. Donc voilà, donc je vous souhaite à tous une bonne journée, on continue sur l'histoire au prochain épisode. Ciao.